Live from Boston Broadcasting in the What a Day studios, this is the What a Day podcast with your host, Joe Lowry. Joe Lowry, What a Day. Welcome to the What a Day podcast. And my guest at this time really needs no introduction, but she's going to get one anyways. She's a model, a singer, an actress, a TNA knockout champion, ranked as number 21 in PWI's top 50 female wrestlers back in 2008, a former WWE superstar, a 2009 Slammy Award winner, as well as the first ever pregnant 24/7 champion, and most importantly, a wife and a mom. Please welcome to the show the lovely and talented Maria Kanellis. Maria, welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe, what a day.
Hey, there you go. All right, let's get right to it. I mean, we're all talking about it. The storyline from last year, basically, you announced your pregnancy on the air and so forth. Your husband, Mike, was supposedly not the father. That was the storyline. And the proverbial, who's your daddy gimmick starts going around. And, whether it's Ricochet or Rusev or whoever, all the while, your husband, Mike, is being humiliated week to week. Almost the equivalent of the Young and the Restless meets Jerry Springer, which this is all about. Social media numbers start to rise, rating goes up, Twitter rants start to develop, fans flock to YouTube watching all this stuff going on. Then all of a sudden the storyline is pretty much dropped. What was your reasoning? What did they tell you the reasoning behind this was to have something like that just stop?
So WWE doesn't give a reason for anything. They literally tell you nothing. We knew that we had some of the highest rated segments. We were also the most talked about on social media for several weeks there, and they just dropped it. What I've been told is possibly Vince just didn't want to do it. We can only guess at this point.
Okay. So, what was your reaction, basically? I've seen it. I've seen the interviews you've given. You're with your son Carver. You get the call from Mark Carano, and I know what it's like. You're double tasking. You're being a parent one moment, and your work the next, and all of a sudden it's, hey, this is what's going on. What was your reaction? You must have been shell shocked.
I was. I hadn't asked for my release. I had very long conversations with WWE about what was going to happen in my future at WWE. They had even talked about, before signing me, maybe me going into more of a creative role. Maybe I was going to sign like a paid per appearance deal because they knew I was going to have another child. I wasn't expecting that to be the way my career ended. I thought I would do the next 4 years, what was left of my contract, and then maybe do 5 years after that on either like a paid per appearance or maybe be creative or a producer. I never expected to get a phone call during my maternity leave in the middle of a pandemic. That was not that never crossed my mind that was going to happen.
Unbelievable. And you've been very vocal about your release from the WWE all over social media and so forth. Pretty much the timing of it, per se, is what seems to be the key here. Your husband Mike is asking for his release. You're pregnant with your second child. You have a great storyline going on. And all of a sudden, bang. And then you were pretty vocal. You probably did with most, I won't say disgruntled, because you didn't seem disgruntled. You were having a really good storyline, and bang, all of a sudden this happens. What was going through your mind?
I think that there was a lot of opportunity with that particular storyline, being the first pregnant champion.
Awesome.
And I think they dropped the ball on that. But they dropped the ball on a lot of great storylines. You think about Rusev Day, it all of a sudden was just gone.
Yeah.
Or you think about when Sandow was the stunt double. That was fantastic.
That was cool.
But then that just went away too. Or Fandango, these things that have been very successful among the fans have not always been successful backstage, and that's unfortunate. And I I think with WWE, you almost have in the back of your mind, like, hey, this is a possibility. But really, I didn't think it was going to happen to me at that time. Because we had had so many conversations about moving forward, and because I had sat down with Vince and I had talked to Triple H about possibly going and working with the NXT girls, because I had worked with so many of them before. So the me being released wasn't even a question in my mind, especially because I figured, Mike was probably going to get released, and like we knew that was a big possibility. He had asked for his release. We were fine with that. But the both of us on the same day, that was a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, that was. So now, what do you feel? I mean, with the COVID pandemic and so forth, you weren't the only ones. Obviously, there was a shuttle bus.
No, but it wasn't. We weren't released because of the pandemic. I mean, that's a nice cover. It's a nice cover for not just not just WWE, but for a lot of companies out there. They were. There was a lot of people in WWE that they didn't want to be around anymore. And so they released us, and then they used the pandemic as an excuse. But, it's funny because, wrestling fans, they really want to believe everything about WWE is positive. But in big business, there is a lot of negative things that happen too. And you can't just go blindly into believing everything that a billion-dollar company is saying. They have a lot more PR than I do or my husband does. They have the ability to get their story out there much more vastly than I can. I'm only one person. But it wasn't because of the pandemic. They just wanted to get rid of the 30 of us because they were doing some cost-saving measures so that their numbers would look really well this year with everything that happened in Saudi Arabia. So, it's fine. And they're losing deals. I mean, they've lost several deals around the world as of late. And maybe those deals were lost because of the pandemic. But we were released because they wanted good numbers.
Yeah, well, they're not getting them, to be honest with you now. I mean, they are
not those kind of numbers. I mean, they wanted good quarterly numbers by releasing us, but their numbers on television, no, they're not very good either.
Yeah, they actually have a call coming up, I want to say Thursday, that'll be on second quarter call. So it'll be interesting to see how they, what's the word I'm looking for, cover it up, so to speak. I mean, I know the cost is supposed to be.
They're never going to go away. They're the largest wrestling company in the world. They're always going to be around. They've gone through their ups and downs, and I'm sure that they'll come out of this as well. But I do think other companies have had a huge opportunity to really pique people's interest during this time, which is exciting.
No, it is good. I mean, social media, it's the only way to watch the sport now. With what's going on, unless you DVR it like everybody else, and they hate that. They don't like.
Yeah, they do.
I'm telling you. So, your critics, they were pretty vocal. They think you're a sour employee. How do you respond to that? I mean, social media wise, because obviously you don't meet these people face to face. I call them keyboard warriors because I get attacked all the time too, and it's like I don't even know these people. How do they know me?
It's funny because I mean. And people are going to get upset about this, and that's okay. I am a wife. I have 2 kids. I've already graduated college. I'm about to get my master's degree.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. In the grand scheme of things in the world, wrestling is tiny. Yeah. And that is the thing that I think I've been realizing in the last few years with all the social media backlashes. So the backlash I'm getting is nothing compared to a Taylor Swift or compared to a Kim Kardashian or a Kylie Jenner, which all 3 of which have bigger numbers than WWE does.
Sure.
And so I have to always put it in perspective. Mm-hmm. I might think that, that tweet, that was terrible, blah, blah. Really, it doesn't matter. Really, I mean, what effect is it having? And I put it out there a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was even a week ago, that I blocked 50 people, but I got 1,000 followers.
I saw that. Yeah.
And honestly, I've only blocked, I think it's under 500 people.
Yeah.
And like the truth of the matter is those 500 people in this world, they don't account for much.
Yeah, it's a micro. I get it. Yep, I understand.
You know, so like, yes, it's fun to play. Oh, let me fight with you all day long, get you real riled up, and then I'll block you.
Right.
But usually that's when I'm up in the middle of the night and bored while trying to get my child back to sleep.
Oh, there you go. So you're sleep deprived. I get it.
Oh, you know. But it doesn't matter. And I wish that people would try and remain as positive as possible. I wish people would try and find the full story, or at least close to it. A lot of people make up their own agendas, and I'm just not interested in that. I don't care enough.
Yeah, I mean, social media and the way it was intended. I started a hashtag like a few months ago when everything was going south, like make Facebook fun again, because my whole feed was either political, COVID, negativity, politics, all that stuff. And I'm like, where's the fun? Where's the funny memes?
That's
what
why
happened?
I started doing Moon TV with my daughter.
Yeah. I mean,
like, you know, we'll give you the weather. We'll give you a quote for the day. It's always positive and inspirational. And sometimes she's the terrible twos, you know? So like,
that sounds like what I do. Is it hot where you are right now?
Oh my gosh.
We got I'm outside of Boston, by the way. So it's 99 degrees.
Okay. I'm in Carver, Mass right now.
Oh my God. You're 30. I'm in Brockton.
I'm in Carver, Massachusetts right now. We're visiting the in-laws. We've had like several business meetings and stuff like that. So we came out here so we had more people to help us out.
Oh, there you go.
During this time, yeah.
So Mike's from Carver, correct?
Yeah, he's from Carver.
You named his son Carver. That's funny. So you see the cranberry bogs and all that good stuff down.
Oh yeah, he used to work on them. He worked on the cranberry bogs and on a golf course when he was younger.
Nice. And then you go to Edaville at all? Edaville Railroad? You must go.
We've gone to Edaville twice. My daughter loved it. Oh my gosh, the Christmas with the lights and hot chocolate and my mother-in-law eating my cookies. You know, it's just part of it.
But we took our granddaughter back in November, right before Thanksgiving, or right after Thanksgiving, first week of December, and it was like 0 degrees out. It was like the coldest, and then the rest of the winter was like 50. It's like the weirdest weather. I was like, oh my God, we froze our butts off in December when we probably could have went in January, but it's fun down there.
I don't know anymore.
I grew up when I was a kid, because they had closed it for a while, but when I was a kid, it was still open. I did the Christmas lights and the big tour and the train ride and all that stuff. So it was fun. So that's good. But moving on, any animosity towards the WWE? I mean, is the door ever going to swing back open with a possible, hey, come on back? Would you be okay with that? I don't know. You tell me.
So everybody said back in 2010 when I left WWE, and I had lots to say back then, and more had to do with women empowerment back then. Everybody's like, you're never going back. That's never. But then the business changed. And then they wanted someone like me back. And maybe the business will change again. And then maybe I'll be interested in going back. But, you know, I just don't ever want to say never, because then you're always proven wrong.
Sure. I always leave the door open is what I say. So, okay, so let's just do a little history here. 2004. How did you were you always a wrestling fan? How did you get involved in the business? I mean, did you grow up watching wrestling?
Yeah, I broke my brother's nose when he was like 5, I think, wrestling. So, and I think I was like 7 at the time, but don't quote me on that. It's a long time ago. But so I grew up a wrestling fan, used to watch it with my dad. My grandparents still think it's real, which is hilarious. And so,
what are you talking about?
It really hurts.
It does.
Put it that way. It really hurts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I entered in the competition because I saw it on Monday Night Raw. I was watching Monday Night Raw. I entered in the competition. It was online in this most ridiculous, like, remember old school internet, and you're like type. It was ridiculous.
Dial-up
So
modem.
I was like, there's no way they're gonna pick girls off of this. And lo and behold, I was invited to a tryout, and then I tried out with 600 other girls in Chicago, and then I made it to the top 10, and then I made it to top 5. So yeah, I was a huge fan. Me and Michelle McCool were probably the biggest fans that were in that group, and we always used to talk about it like, oh my God, there's whoever. We were so excited backstage.
Speaking of Michelle, do you think she belongs in the WWE Hall of Fame?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so
I
too.
do. I think that I think WWE is doing a terrible job of trying to cover up a very vital point in women's wrestling, and that was the divas.
Yeah.
There was divas before, or there were women before the divas that knew how to wrestle really well, that were never spotlit. But in particular, the girls I worked with during that time, they brought a lot of different things to the table. They came from modeling backgrounds. They had connections.
Yeah.
They had the ability to really market themselves. And so that on top of the wrestling from the past, because you already had Trish in there. You had Victoria's a fantastic wrestler. Molly, Ivory, like these women were already there. And so they were there. Then you brought in this marketing aspect, and then now you get the women's evolution. So like, it's cute when people want to tell me, oh, the divas sucked. No, the divas were good at something, and that was as a catapult to today. And any female that you talk to that is the most popular women in wrestling of today, guess who they watched? It wasn't like they were just like, I want to be a male wrestler. No, they wanted to be a diva, and there's a reason for that.
Exactly. Now, did you watch Glow on Netflix? Did you ever watch that show?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So, I mean, I grew up, obviously, I'm a little older than you. I remember, Glow being on at 1 a.m. and going, wow, these girls can wrestle.
Yeah.
They look like I think they were trying to make them look more circusy, but, that's the type of.
That's where we came from, Yeah, wrestling origin is from the circus.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of different iterations of wrestling, and now we're here today with the women's wrestling of today. And I still think there's a long way to go.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm a big fan of the women's wrestling. I love it. I think part of the reason why I DVR it now is to watch it on all.
Which company? Which one? Which one are you watching right now? Are you watching Impact?
If you've been on my website, I watch them all. Don't get me wrong, I watch them all. I can't stand the commercials. I just can't. But I got to tell you, Deonna Purrazzo and Jordynne Grace last Saturday night, I went on a talk show last Tuesday night, and they're all talking WWE Extreme Rules, blah, blah. I go, back up, folks. I think one of the matches of the weekend, if not the year so far, is to Jordynne Grace and Deonna Purrazzo. That match, there's very few matches that can grab your attention. Saturday night, you're watching a pay-per-view, you're on social media, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're cooking, you're cleaning, you're doing whatever. This match made me sit down for 20 minutes.
And I watched it. And you watch it. And we have known Deonna for years. We knew her when she would come and do matches in Ring of Honor. We knew her when she came and did matches in Impact. I saw her on the Indies. Like, we've been rooting for this girl for a long time, and I think she's finally getting a platform to really showcase what she's all about. And Impact is doing something right with the women's wrestling, and I think that they have fantastic talent. And I really believe that Gail being over there in Madison, I just think that they know what they're doing. They really do, and they make those girls look so good.
And the biggest thing I commented on about that match is that match didn't need a crowd there. That wrestling match, it was strictly on them. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about it now. I'm looking at it going, they don't need a crowd. They
Yeah.
don't need a crowd. If they can tell a story in the ring like that, they don't need a crowd. And I was just flabbergasted by it. And I gave all the props. I emailed Gil. I told everybody what a match. It was a great
Yeah.
match.
You look at wrestling nowadays, and everybody is all about like, oh, we got to do this move and this move and this. And I think that people are really starting to get back to tell me a story with
Right.
those moves. I want to see all of it. Give me all of that stuff. But
Yeah.
tell me a story. Tell me what you're feeling. When I used to train over here at the North at Wrestle Kingdom,
Yeah.
I never trained the wrestling part. But what I always talked about was, it's cool. It's cool to do all those moves. It's great to do all of that. But if you want to keep people invested, then you have to give them more. You have to tell them that story.
Yeah, and I feel, and I had Francine on one time, even Don Marco, Tito Santana. I've had them all on, and the number one thing that we all agree on is the storytelling now. A majority of it is outside the ring now. It's not even inside the ring. So by the time they wrestle, it's secondary. It's a 5-minute match. Whether who wins or loses is not the big deal because it's going on outside the ring.
Yeah.
The story warrants it, but Jordan and Deanna didn't have, they would have 3 weeks worth of hype, maybe in the pandemic, limited television, limited TV audience, no audience live. And to tell a story in 20 minutes like that, hats off to them. Kudos. TNA hit in my opinion.
Oh, definitely.
I think they did. Now, how are you and Mike and everybody dealing with the pandemic? Are you guys still modeling? I know that. I saw that yesterday. You were modeling.
Yeah, I've been doing a bit. It's funny because I always go back to my roots, and where my roots were is I started modeling when I was 14 years old. And I was bikini modeling. What was I doing?
14?
Yeah. But
Wow.
I started at 14 modeling, and so I always go back to my roots. It clears my head. It puts me back in the right frame of mind. Some people go work out. Some people, everybody's got their thing. They go and party with their friends, whatever. I go back to modeling.
Right.
And Mike and I'm so glad that we have the relationship that we do, and we're such a team with the kids that usually I have Carver and he has Freddie. And, because Carver, he's newborn, he's still drinking the bottles, wants his mama, all that kind of stuff. And Freddie is, running around the yard and playing outside and all of this stuff. So we usually take one. I do Carver's bedtime routine. He does Freddie's routine. So we're a really good team. We are in Massachusetts right now for about a month and a half.
Wow.
And before that, we were in Illinois, and we were only about 3 minutes from my parents' house, but we didn't see my parents for probably 6 weeks.
Wow.
During the beginning of this pandemic. And it was hard because, I was, I think when the pandemic started, I might have only been 6 weeks postpartum or something like that. So it was really hard to be away from my mom during that time. And then on top of it, to lose our jobs. And we were just like, But, so, everybody's going through something though. Luckily, everybody's healthy. Everybody's been healthy. We did lose my grandfather during this time, but he didn't have COVID. He actually had a brain aneurysm, and he was older. He lived a really good life. So, everybody's going through something. So I try not to, I try not to dwell on it. I realize that the family's healthy, and that should be good enough.
Yeah. Now you're from Illinois, you said, right?
I am. Yeah.
My brother lives in Evanston.
Okay.
Yep. 25 years he's been out there now. I didn't think I'd see him last that long, but he did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was a lifetime Bostonian, met somebody, moved out there, wife, 2 kids, all that stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, you're really staying out here? Because most Massachusetts people come home.
Oh, yeah. No, my husband, when I stole him from here, he was like, what are we doing? We're in the middle of nowhere and can't smell the ocean. And, it's so funny.
So you asked me, I'll ask you, do you still watch the product? And if so, who do you watch?
I watch a bit of everything. With two little ones, I can't catch that
Yeah.
much wrestling. There's no way to consume all of it. I
No way.
hear about something fantastic, or I know something is coming up. I watch it. I've been watching a lot of the women's division over at Impact, and I will be the first to admit that. I think at the beginning of the pandemic, AEW was doing a fantastic job of still making it exciting. So I was really watching that. And then, of course, I was watching to see all my buddies showing up over at Impact. So, I've been, basically watching those two products. I was watching WWE for a while there. But I'm not going to lie, it's tough for me.
It is.
Really is. And not because, oh, I used to work there. No, it's tough for me to watch because I feel like the product is suffering, and not because of the talent. The talent there, if used properly, great, fantastic.
Yeah.
But I don't understand what they're doing right now, and I'm like, I struggle watching it because I feel for the talent. Right. I'm like, oh, you got to do that story? Like, oh, no.
Do you think it's a creative thing? Do you think that needs to be overhauled? Do you think, I know some writers No?
Not the writers.
No.
It's not the writers.
No.
There are some fantastic writers.
I know.
Fantastic writers that I used to work with over there that had great stuff down on paper. By the time I received what I was going to do, I was like, oh, I'm not saying that. I'm not doing that. And, I would finagle as much as I could, but you couldn't always fight the man. And, you just can't. And, a long time ago, I was told by Trish Stratus, you got to do the best with what you've got. But at a certain point, there's just no energy in it.
I hear you. I look at just 2 weeks ago, SmackDown, the karaoke contest. I don't know if you heard about this, but Naomi took to Twitter. Somebody bashed her for doing it, and she says, well, you got to make, they give you a shit, you got to make something with it. And she said that on Twitter, which was kind of like, oh boy, that's a big thing to say.
There's a lot of people that feel exactly how I felt when I was there.
You have somebody on the inside like her saying that could be detrimental in the future and so forth. Not saying it will, but it was.
Yeah, I've seen several girls making comments as of late. Even if they're too far over everybody's head, I'm like, ooh, I feel you. Okay, I see you. But something has to change in that company in order for it to be what it used to be. But part of me feels like it can never be that again. So my final WrestleMania, and I've talked about this a couple times now, I felt nothing. Nothing.
Wow.
I walked out there and felt nothing. I couldn't wait to get back and hold my daughter.
Wow.
My WrestleMania, when I had a tag match and Ashley Massaro was my partner, oh my God, I was like hyperventilating by the time I got to the ring. I was so excited to be there. The crowd felt different. The backstage felt different. The community felt different. You thought you were doing something important, and now I didn't feel that way again. And sad. I remember after WrestleMania, I was just talking about this to Chavo. After WrestleMania, we would all be sitting together, and we would all watch back highlights from the show that night and congratulate each other, saying, oh, that was such a good job, and oh, that was fantastic. People couldn't get out of there fast enough because of how long the show was and how it wasn't built like it used to be. You knew from SummerSlam to WrestleMania you were going to build one storyline. And so that by the time you got to Wrestle, and you'd have a little bit at Royal Rumble, but it was pretty much in stone. Those were going to be the guys and girls. Wow. And you don't have it anymore. And it just makes it feel not as important.
No, I hear you.
Content.
Do you think it's more of, so we'll just go back real quickly to your last time at WWE. Is it a morale thing? Is it something that just...
No. It's not a morale thing. It's a, so I don't know. I can't pinpoint it exactly.
Right.
The talent, of course, the talent wants to be doing better storylines. They want to be more successful with the television product. They want better numbers. It's not the talent. Um,
Right.
Part of it, honestly, has to do with the fact that WWE as a company refuses to change. They have a certain way of doing things and they refuse to change. And that's why Fandango didn't work,
Yeah.
because they wanted it to be a certain way and they didn't agree with how Fandango was being successful. And like, I think that happened again with Rusev Day. Like, just let it go, let it grow, let it, let it go, let it go. Like, it's successful. Just stop messing with it. Just let it be. And that's what the greats had. The greats had the freedom when something started to gain some momentum. All right, you're at the top of the hill. Now figure it out.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, you're at the top of the hill. I don't want you to make any more money, or I don't want you to become too successful, or I don't want another Rock, or because there's guys there that could be. There could be 10 guys there right now that are superstars.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
Letting them be.
I feel that that's what's missing in this element because they're showcase. Well, first of all, the roster is huge.
Yes.
We're talking, it's huge. So it's hard to showcase, even with Raw being 3 hours and SmackDown 2 hours, NXT 2 hours. You can't possibly create a Rock or a Stone Cold in that time frame because you have too many people, and B, I don't know. Is there? You tell me there is, but is there that somebody? Who comes to mind that could carry that role? That could, uplift that company? Roman Reigns, maybe, but even he's getting backlash.
Roman Reigns is getting backlash. But again, if the company was 100% supportive of him and they weren't doing this, oh, well, we're kind of supportive because we want him to come back and we need him, but we're not going to completely get behind him. Well, now you're giving everybody, again, this goes back to I'm one person. Roman is one person. WWE can spew all of this stuff to make things negative.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's not fair. It's not, I mean, there are guys that constantly were starting to grow. Like, you look at Rusev, okay? And Rusev could have been another superstar.
Oh, yeah.
And, maybe not right this second.
No, but you built, it doesn't happen.
Already on the cusp of doing it.
Right.
The difference between now and then was everyone I worked with back then was always right there to where all the company had to say was go, and they were already being pushed enough that they could have been that. Like, Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy were there. You had Edge and Christian there. You had Tajiri there. You had such a vast array of guys. You had Rey Mysterio. It wasn't because there was only one top guy. No, it was because there was all these guys and girls that were right there on the cusp and being brought up by the older guys. Now, like, I will always constantly blame it on 2010, 2011. If you look back then at the roster, they all of a sudden got rid of all the guys that were mid-card going up into top card guys. Yeah. Like, and main eventers. They got rid of so many guys right there at that point that I don't think they ever got it back. You had such a difference between your vets and then your lower card guys. You were playing catch up. But now it's not about that. Wrestling is not about, well, WWE is not about that. They're not about the veterans bringing up the new guys and all of that kind of stuff. What it is now is collect as many people as you can so nobody else makes money. And that is why they were fine with releasing 30 of us. Okay, go find work, you idiots. Like,
I Well, this is a good
pandemic.
this is a good segue for the mid card thing and all that stuff. What do you think? Did you get along with Paul Heyman when you were there?
And Paul's been a friend of mine for a long time.
What do you think of his firing? Because he was supposed to bring Raw to another level. I was excited again. Fans were excited, and here we are. Bang. Let's replace Paul Heyman, bring in Bruce Pritchard again, and we're back to where we were. How many years ago again? I mean, I hate to say it, but
well, yeah. And then Bruce Pritchard wants to go on rants about other people, and it's like, okay, stop, just stop. At a certain point, you have to, and I've realized this in my life, and I think that it is an important part of growing up. You are not the youngest or the smartest in the room. You're just not. You're not the best. Right. You get to a certain point in your career, you're not the best. And what is the best thing you can do at that point? Surround yourself with the best.
I agree.
Because when you do, you are a manager. You are a leader.
Yeah.
If you can't do the job anymore, then find someone that can and be a mentor to them. Yep. Stop trying to be this guy that lives forever. You know how you live forever? You build people up around you that will say your name and sing your praises for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
That is what it used to be. That is what wrestling used to be. And that's what I was excited about when I used to be there. This time around was different. And not because the top guys weren't doing it, but because they weren't being allowed to do it.
Right.
They weren't being allowed to bring up the whole crew because there was only room for a few on top. Now, there used to be plenty of room, and there still is plenty of room, but it's just not allowed.
Right, exactly.
With Heyman's always been a friend of mine. He always was, I think, a straight shooter. Yeah. So, like, you only know what you know. And he was the one that told me that Vince didn't see anything in Mike. And that was the, first person that really gave me an honest answer.
Yeah. That must have been fuel for Mike then, I'm sure.
Oh, sure. But what can you do?
I know. When you're in a situation, I agree. Nope, I hear you.
It's literally like, I am going to drive this car as fast as I can. Oh, but I don't have any tires. What the hell are you going to do? You can't.
I totally agree.
In that particular company, you had no tires. You had no wheels. You couldn't. Yes, you could, like, in your head, spin your wheels all day long. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be this successful guy, and I'm pitch this idea, and I'm going to try this, and I'm going to show up early and try these moves, and we did all of that. It didn't matter.
Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree. I mean, I know people in the industry, and they love Paul Heyman. He's a straight shooter, like you said. And it was shocking for me that after less than a year, less than 6 months, I don't know what it was. Last year he took over, I think. And this is what happens. And it's like, what is going on? As soon as they see, when they get a good thing going and the ball gets rolling, like you said, they cut him right off. Everybody stops, and it's like, why? What's the deal?
It's a scapegoat for the numbers too, I think. And I think they're kind of putting it on him. And I don't know too if it has to do with who got fired and the type of people got fired, and maybe they're just trying to put it all on him. I have no idea. Because I think whoever made the decision to fire us, I think it was a very poor decision. Not just, let's take me and Mike out of the equation. You release Carl and Doc. Really?
I know.
Of the best marketing guys in the industry. They were the Bullet Club. Yeah, you were going to release them and think that they're going to not work again? Come on.
I remember 5 years ago going to a house show. They made their first appearance at the Garden, and people would just wanted AJ Styles, Finn Balor, Doc, and Luke to get back together. And it was like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And then all of a sudden it didn't happen. It was like, what are they doing? They have lightning in a bottle here, and boom, they make them go a separate way. AJ goes a separate way. And it's like, this is crazy. Absolutely crazy. I mean, as a fan, I was excited. But then I look at the business side of it and I'm going, no way. I don't know.
Hey, buddy, this is what I think. Sometimes I think like WWE hates money. Like they would just be printing money. Put the Bullet Club back together. It doesn't matter what you call them. You could call them the Poop Show. They would still be printing money for you. Like,
I hated that too. They had to change it to the club and not the Bullet Club. It was too offensive, and that's when I started realizing that something was going on with them and all that. So I'm like, no way. That's when everything started changing. I think 6 years ago, probably for me. You say 2010, you're probably right because my kids were graduating high school at that time. So I was not like a fair weather fan. I was a DVR guy, and I would catch up after my daughter's sports and all that stuff. So
I'm losing you. Hello? Hello? I don't know what happened. Let's see.
Into like I am now because I have the time, like you say, being mom kind of left it up to sit on actual something. So, I see you. You see me?
I see you now. Okay.
I'm here.
You all of a sudden went in, you stopped completely, and then it was like Minnie Mouse. Blah, 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 and then now you're back.
All right, we're back. All right, so have you been offered by anybody, TNA, Ring of Honor, AEW, to head on over to the other side? Has anybody reached out to you?
Well, I'll put it this way. There have been offers. It's very difficult weighing out options, especially because of the pandemic and having tiny ones.
Right.
I've had other offers that have nothing to do with wrestling because of my degree and my background. So for me, I'm weighing out options, and not every one of them has to do with wrestling. But I'm really excited to see what happens next with wrestling, because I think that it's going to change a lot with the pandemic. So as things change, I will start figuring things out. But I don't want to rush anything, especially with a 5.5-month-old. I'll put it that way.
So let's keep the wrestling hat on. No kids. We'll go back 20 years, 10, 15 years. No kids. Maria Kanellis. Where would you go if you had the chance right now to wrestle?
Wrestle?
Yeah, no pandemic.
No pandemic. Oof. I don't know. Probably New Japan.
New Japan?
Yeah, I think going back over there and managing, it was a really good time of my life. Or maybe WWE circa 2006, maybe.
Okay.
Impact, if I could just manage one of the girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No AEW, huh? No AEW? You wouldn't take a shot over there?
So AEW said that, well, AEW didn't, but Chris Jericho said that they weren't really interested in any of us right now. So that's okay. That's cool. I don't even think about it. I have to say that they're doing great things over there. And but at the same time, I'm not going to spend too much time on a company that doesn't want me.
Right, exactly. Now, another question I like to ask my guests is, let's take the Maria Kanellis prime diva time. Diva, what would you say your prime is? 2006, 2008, right around that time frame? Would you think?
In WWE, probably 2007, 2008.
Okay.
But maybe even 2009, because that's when I started doing like Apprentice and stuff. I was a busy girl back then.
Okay.
But so yeah.
All right, so we're going to take that Maria Kanellis right there. I always ask this question. All my wrestling friends love this. Who would you like to face today? Today's stars with that Maria Kanellis?
Asuka.
Anybody. It can be anybody.
Asuka in a heartbeat.
Really? Asuka. Why is that?
Yeah. I think that everyone that she works with in the ring is better for it. And I think that's incredibly talented. Plus, she's a mom, and she's older. And I think I relate to that so much. Yeah, her. I I never got my match with Allie after the wedding, so maybe Allie. Maybe that might still happen.
Ah, that's awesome. So basically, Oscar would be your number one choice then, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you happen to catch Raw last night at all?
I did not know. We were coming back from our photo shoot last night.
Her and Bailey, excuse me, her and Sasha Banks put on probably one of the best wrestling matches outside of the Deonna Purrazzo Jordan Grace match, and it got strictly ruined by some outside thing. It was crazy. I saw Twitter blow up. People were mad. They were like, they had a really good match. They wrestled for a good 20 minutes on TV, one commercial break, which I thought was great. But I love Asuka. She's a great talent. I think she's getting the push she finally deserves, but we'll see where that goes. So all that, what's in store for Maria and Mike in the future? What's coming up?
Well, we are in talks. So there's definitely something down the pipeline.
Something. What's something? Movie related, game related? I don't know. You tell me. You say something. I just need something. You can't leave me hanging like that.
I think I'm leaving everybody hanging right now. Everybody keeps asking, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I'm like, I had a baby 5.5 months ago. I got fired, and we're in a pandemic. I think maybe I'll take one day at a time. Definitely, we just keep busy. We do. We are in talks with a couple of companies right now. We're trying to make the best decision for our family. Whether that is to sign and start up soon or sign and start up next year, depending on how this pandemic goes. Not only that, but we are going to be shooting a little reality show, but it's not like, it's not going to be, it's going to be online. It's not going to be like on a network or anything like that, but we are shooting that coming up here in September. We will be bringing the podcast back. We're going to keep doing Moon TVs, and I'm planning on shooting a lot more photos. So, but as far as wrestling goes, I think Mike is starting to take bookings, but not any one particular company yet. I mean, you have to think about it this way. We have to be careful, and health is the number one thing for us.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Right. I do a once a week called the What a Day Wrestling Minute, where I actually give the state of wrestling every week for 60 seconds. That's it. And a lot of it's due to COVID and ratings and all that stuff. But I kind of put the whole premise on right now the world's at a pause type deal. So isn't the state of wrestling to me? I think it is. And then what happens after that is, when they hit play, what's going to happen after they hit play? You know what I mean? Because I think when everybody gets through this pandemic, whether it's wrestling, Major League Baseball, NFL, all that stuff, NHL, NBA, things are going to come roaring back in such a capacity. It may be bigger, but the only caveat to all this now is that the WWE is going to have to be dealing with TNA on a real level, and definitely AEW on a real level, which is nothing but good for the fans and good for you, because you can show up anywhere. You'd show up anywhere, right? Awesome. Excellent. So what is with the hashtag milk money? I see that on your tweets a lot. Hashtag milk money. You hear me?
Yeah. So there was a Fergie song. I got it. The milk money. Okay. It has to do with being a mother and making money enough to pay for the milk to feed the children.
There you go. I got it. And I see you doing that now, right? That's good though, right? Excellent. All right, well, that just about wraps us up here on the What a Day podcast. Maria, I want to thank you very, very much for appearing on the What a Day podcast.
Yeah.
And, hopefully reality show, wrestling show, we can see you in the near future. Any other projects coming up that you can quickly say that you're doing? Modeling, you've been modeling. Cosmo coming on. You're going to be on the cover of Cosmo soon, all that stuff?
I think wrestling is a little bit off of that. So, but we'll have to see. You never know. Awesome.
Real quick, I had one last question. Who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
Female or male?
Either or.
I love Lita. Lita was my favorite female.
Yep, she's awesome.
Yeah.
Would you like to wrestle her if you ever had the chance?
I did have the chance.
Oh, you did? Okay. Oh, when was that?
I wrestled her in the main event of,
Oh,
and it was a mixed tag match
okay.
years
Excellent.
ago.
Wow, that's awesome. Amy Dumas, great athlete. She's a good athlete too. Well, I want to thank you again for appearing on the What a Day podcast. And folks, you can find this What a Day podcast over at soundcloud.com. Just type in soundcloud.com/whataday. And also my website at www.whatadayjoe.com. Once again, I want to thank Maria Kanellis for appearing on the What a Day podcast. Maria, thank you so much.
Of course.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, you have a good one.
Thanks, you too.
This has been a What a Day production. Filmed on location at What a Day Studios. The views expressed by Joe Lowry are his and his alone, and that's how it is, so just deal with it. This has been a What a Day production.